The night was colder than usual. The city slept under silver fog, but one man was still awake. Eli Turner, a homeless man living under a broken bridge near the old railway. His clothes were torn, his hands rough, and his eyes tired from years of surviving the streets. He had nothing except an old wool blanket, his only shield against the biting winter wind. Eli had learned to ignore hunger, to sleep beside the sound of passing trains, and to talk only to stray cats. The world had forgotten him, and he had stopped expecting anything from it. But that night was not like others. Something strange was about to happen, something that would change not only his life but the fate of an entire planet. It started with a sound, a soft hum from the dark sky. Eli looked up, thinking it was a plane. But this sound was different. It was alive. The clouds above him glowed faint blue, and a streak of light fell like a shooting star, landing in the empty park across the road. The ground trembled slightly, and then everything became silent again. Eli rubbed his eyes. "Maybe I'm dreaming," he muttered. But curiosity pulled him. Slowly, with his blanket around his shoulders, he walked toward the park. When he reached the spot, he saw something that made his heart stop. In the middle of the frosty grass lay a small creature, glowing faintly, trembling, its skin pale silver like moonlight. It looked like a child, but not a human one. Its eyes were too large, its fingers too thin, and its chest rose and fell weakly, as if every breath was painful. The creature was freezing. Eli stood there, speechless. He didn't know if it was real or just his tired mind playing tricks. But when the little being let out a weak cry, a sound so soft and full of pain, his heart melted. Without thinking, he took off his blanket and wrapped it around the child. Hey, it's okay. You'll be fine," he whispered. His voice shook with cold and fear. The child looked at him, eyes glowing like blue fireflies, and blinked slowly, as if trying to understand kindness. For a moment, their eyes met, man and alien, and something passed between them. Not words, but a feeling, warmth, trust. The creature placed its tiny hand on Eli's rough fingers. A faint light spread across his palm, warm and peaceful, like a thank you that needed no language. Eli didn't know what to do next. Should he take it somewhere? Should he call the police? But his instinct said no. Something told him this being was not safe in human hands. He stayed there through the night, holding the alien child close, sharing his body warmth. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, watching silently. Eli felt strange, like he was protecting something sacred. Before dawn, the child's breathing slowed. Its skin glowed once more, brighter than before, and then dimmed. It looked peaceful, asleep. But when Eli blinked, it was gone. Only the blanket remained lying on the frost-covered grass. He looked around, nothing, no footprints, no sign. "Where did you go, little one?" he whispered. The morning sun rose and the world woke up again. People hurried to work. Cars honked. Nobody noticed the homeless man sitting alone in the park, staring at the empty blanket that once held a miracle. Eli sighed and stood up. Maybe it was all a dream. Maybe he'd finally lost his mind. He folded the blanket and went back to his bridge, wondering why his chest felt heavy with both sadness and wonder. But that night, as the stars returned, something else came with them. High above the clouds, hundreds of lights appeared, moving fast, silent, and deadly. They were not planes. They were ships, alien ships, and they were looking for one man. The next morning began like any other cold day in the city. People hurried past the bridge, coffee in hand, never once looking at the man who slept beneath it. Eli Turner woke up to the sound of police sirens and a sky heavy with clouds. His body ached and his mind kept returning to what had happened last night. The glowing child, the strange light, the warmth that still lingered in his palm. He stared at his old blanket. It was clean now, almost shining faintly in sunlight like it had absorbed something from that alien child. Eli rubbed his hands over it, whispering, "You weren't a dream, were you?" But before he could think more, the air above him suddenly vibrated, a deep hum like 1,000 engines roaring quietly together. The birds scattered, the clouds twisted, and then the sky opened. From the heavens descended hundreds of silver crafts moving in perfect formation. They didn't make noise like human jets, only a low, deep hum that made the ground shake. People on the street screamed and pointed at the sky. Some recorded videos. Others ran for cover. It was chaos. Eli stood frozen, watching in disbelief as the ships surrounded the city like a storm. Then, one by one, they stopped, hovering silently over the park, the same place where the alien child had fallen. A beam of light shot down from the largest ship so bright that even the sun looked dim beside it. And from that light, figures stepped out. Tall, armored beings, their bodies covered in silver suits that shimmered like liquid metal. Their helmets hid their faces, but their movements were sharp and disciplined. Alien soldiers, there were hundreds of them, maybe more. They spread out across the park, scanning the area with glowing blue devices. A strange language echoed through the air, clicks, tones, and electric hums. The people watching from a distance screamed again and fled. But Eli couldn't move. He felt that same warmth in his chest, the same strange connection he'd felt with the child. Suddenly, a voice boomed from the sky, deep, echoing in every direction. "Identify the human who touched the Royal One." Eli's heart stopped. The Royal One? They were talking about the child. Before he could even hide, one of the soldiers turned toward him. The device in his hand glowed bright blue, and he shouted something in his alien tongue. In seconds, dozens of soldiers surrounded Eli's bridge. He raised his hands. "Wait, what do you want from me?" The lead soldier stepped forward. His armor shifted, opening slightly around the face, revealing gray skin and silver eyes that looked both human and not. His voice was calm but carried power. "You gave warmth to the air of Zithra," he said slowly, speaking English now through a translator device. "You touched the sacred blood." "Explain yourself," Eli stammered. I just saw a child freezing. I didn't know who he was. I just helped." The alien tilted his head. "You offered your only possession." "Your blanket?" "Yes," Eli said, his voice shaking. "He was dying. I couldn't just walk away." For a long moment, none of them spoke. Then the alien bowed his head, something that looked like respect. "On Zithra, such kindness is sacred," he said. "But you must come with us. The council demands your presence." "Wait, what council?" Eli stepped back. "I'm just a man, a nobody." The alien's silver eyes glowed. "Not anymore." Before Eli could speak, light surrounded him. His body felt weightless, as if he was being lifted by invisible hands. The city below blurred, cars, people, buildings, and all fading into a sea of white light. In seconds, he was gone. When his vision cleared, Eli found himself inside something beyond imagination. A massive hall made of crystal and light, floating high above Earth. Windows showed stars and strange planets outside. Alien figures moved silently around, watching him with curious eyes. Eli whispered, Where am I?" The soldier who brought him there replied, "You stand aboard the Zitharan command vessel, human. The king himself wishes to see you." Eli's heart pounded. "The king? For what?" The soldier looked at him for a long time, then said softly, "To decide if you are a threat or a savior." The doors ahead opened with a deep hum. A blinding blue light poured out and a tall figure stepped forward, wearing a crown that shone like a star. Eli held his breath. Eli stood in the great hall of light, his heart pounding so loudly it drowned the hum of alien machines around him. The air shimmered with strange energy, alive, almost breathing. Giant crystal pillars reached up into the darkness above, glowing faintly like frozen lightning. At the far end of the hall, a figure stepped forward, tall, strong, and wrapped in a flowing silver cloak. His crown shimmered like molten stars and his eyes burned an intense shade of blue. This was King Zitharan, ruler of a world Eli had never heard of, but one whose power could be felt with every heartbeat. The king spoke, and his voice echoed like thunder underwater. "Human, you are Eli Turner of Earth?" Eli nodded slowly. "Yes, Your Majesty, I guess." The king studied him in silence. Around them, dozens of alien commanders stood still, their eyes fixed on the ragged man from Earth, a man who didn't even have shoes, now standing before a being worshipped by galaxies. Finally, the king spoke again. "You gave warmth to the royal heir of Zithra, my only child. You did so knowing nothing of who he was. Why?" Eli hesitated. He felt all eyes on him, like the weight of 1,000 worlds pressing down. "Because," he said softly, "he was just a child. He was cold, scared, and alone. I've been cold and alone too. I just didn't want him to feel that. A deep silence filled the hall. Even the glowing walls seemed to listen. The king's expression softened for a moment, then turned serious again. Do you understand what your act means, human? The royal air carries sacred energy, energy that reacts to truth, compassion, and purity. When you touched him, your human essence bound with his life force. That connection cannot be broken. Eli blinked, confused. Bound? What do you mean, bound? An alien general stepped forward, holding a floating screen of light. The human's life signals are now intertwined with the air's. If one perishes, so will the other. Eli's stomach dropped. Wait, are you saying if your son dies, I die too? The king nodded solemnly. Yes, and if you die, the royal heir will not survive either. The hall erupted in whispers, sharp electric sounds in an alien tongue. Eli could feel their eyes burning into him. Some looked angry. Others looked afraid. The king raised his hand, silencing them. The ancient prophecy spoke of such an event, he said. A being from another world who would bond with the royal blood and change the fate of both species. Eli frowned. I'm no hero, your majesty. I'm just a guy with an old blanket. The king almost smiled. Perhaps that is why the stars chose you. Only the humble can carry power without being corrupted by it. Before Eli could respond, the great doors burst open. A smaller alien, one of the royal healers, rushed in, his voice urgent. My king, the heir's condition worsens. The poison from the fall spreads faster. He will not survive the next cycle. The king turned sharply. His calm face finally cracked with fear. No, not my son. He looked back at Eli. You will come with me. His life depends on you. 2 guards gently pulled Eli along the glowing corridor. The walls pulsed like veins carrying light. They entered a quiet chamber filled with strange devices and soft humming energy. There, lying on a bed of silver mist, was the same alien child, pale, weak, but still glowing faintly beneath the blanket Eli had given him. Eli's heart ached. Hey, little one, he whispered, stepping closer. The machines beeped faster as Eli approached, and the child's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, those glowing blue eyes met his again, the same silent trust as before. A tear slipped down Eli's face. The king placed his hand on Eli's shoulder. He responds to you, human. Your bond keeps him alive. You are his anchor. But how do I save him? Eli asked, desperate. The king's eyes darkened. There is only one way, the link ritual. It will merge your life energy with his completely. But it is dangerous. If your spirit is weak, both of you will die. Eli swallowed hard. His hands trembled. I've got nothing left to lose anyway. The king nodded slowly. Then you have already passed the first test. A circle of light began forming around them. The floor glowed, symbols spinning faster and faster. The child's breathing quickened. Eli felt warmth flood his chest. The same energy as before, only stronger now, burning through him like fire and ice. As the ritual began, Eli's vision blurred. He saw flashes, memories that weren't his. A silver planet under twin suns, a royal palace, the alien child laughing in crystal gardens, and then darkness, he gasped, falling to his knees. The king shouted something, but Eli couldn't hear. The world around him spun into white, and then a voice echoed inside his mind. Small, scared, but familiar. Don't be afraid, Eli. I remember you. Eli's eyes widened. The alien child was speaking, inside his mind. Eli gasped, clutching his head as the world around him glowed white. His heart raced, his breath came in short bursts, and strange images flashed before his eyes. Stars being born, crystal cities rising, and silver oceans stretching beneath twin suns. He was still on the alien ship, but he could feel something else, another presence, soft and innocent like a child whispering inside his thoughts. Don't be afraid, Eli, I remember you, the voice said, gentle and clear, echoing inside his mind. Eli looked around in panic. The alien king and soldiers seemed frozen in time, their faces blurred by light. Who are you? He whispered. It's me, the voice said again. The one you helped in the cold? The one you gave your warmth? Eli's eyes widened. The child? Yes, the voice replied. My name is Lyran. The light around him pulsed with the sound of the name. Slowly, the glow faded and the world returned. Eli was still kneeling beside the alien child, Lyran, whose small chest now rose with steady breaths. The energy connecting them shimmered faintly like invisible threads. The king stepped forward, relief flooding his face. He speaks again. The bond is active. Eli looked up, confused. I heard his voice. Inside my head, the king nodded solemnly. You share thoughts now. His mind is linked to yours. What he feels, you will feel. What you think, he may hear. Eli blinked, trying to understand. So, we're connected? Yes, said the king. Two souls, one bond. But such a connection changes both. You are no longer only human. Those words made Eli's heart skip. No longer human? He didn't know if he should feel fear or wonder. Lyran turned his small head and looked up at him. His glowing blue eyes were calmer now, but deep inside them, Eli saw something powerful, something ancient. Thank you, Lyran said quietly, his voice now soft but audible. Eli smiled. You don't need to thank me. You needed help. Anyone would have done the same. The king looked at him with strange respect. No human. Not anyone. Most beings would have feared what they did not understand. As the child rested, a sudden tremor shook the ship. The glowing walls flickered. Sirens echoed through the air, strange and high-pitched. Soldiers rushed through the corridors, shouting in their alien tongue. What's happening? Eli asked, standing quickly. The king's expression turned dark. We've been tracked. A rival fleet, the Draxian Dominion, has entered orbit. They seek the royal heir. Eli's stomach turned. You mean, they want Lyran? Yes, said the king. They believe taking him will give them control over Zithara's throne. And now that he is bound to you, they will kill you both. Before Eli could respond, the ship shook again, harder this time. Lights dimmed and part of the ceiling cracked, spilling sparks and smoke. Lyran whimpered, clutching Eli's hand tightly. Instantly, Eli felt a stab of fear inside his own chest, the bond transmitting the child's emotions. Don't leave me, Lyran whispered inside his mind. I'm not going anywhere, Eli said firmly, gripping his hand. The king barked an order. Protect them. Get to the lower decks. Soldiers surrounded Eli and Lyran, leading them down glowing corridors that twisted like veins through the ship. The floor trembled beneath every step. Outside the windows, flashes of blue fire lit up space. Alien ships exchanging deadly beams of energy. As they ran, Eli could feel Lyran's heartbeat in his chest, quick and frightened like a drum inside his soul. But beneath that fear was something else, a strange warmth spreading through him, calming the panic. It was as if Lyran's energy was protecting him from despair. They reached a chamber lined with circular pods. A soldier pressed his hand against one, opening it with a hiss. Get inside. This will protect you if the hull is breached. Eli shook his head. Wait, what about the king? He fights to hold them back, the soldier said grimly. His order was clear. Protect you both at all costs. Eli didn't want to leave, but Lyran looked up at him, weak but determined. We must live, he whispered inside his mind. He believes in us. Eli nodded, swallowing his fear. He stepped into the pod with the child in his arms. The door sealed and everything went dark. A soft hum filled the air. Then the ship shook violently. A blinding flash. A roar that felt like the universe tearing apart. And silence. When Eli opened his eyes again, he wasn't on the ship anymore. He was lying on soft ground under a purple sky. Strange mountains floated in the distance and rivers of light flowed like liquid glass. He sat up, dizzy. Lyran was beside him, still breathing but unconscious. The alien ships were gone. The stars were different. Where are we? Eli whispered. A voice behind him answered, cold, sharp, and not friendly. Far from your world, human. You shouldn't have touched what was sacred. Eli turned and froze. A group of Draxian soldiers stood there, weapons aimed at his chest. The air around Eli shimmered with heat. He could feel the ground vibrating softly beneath his knees, as if the planet itself was alive and angry. Before him stood a group of tall, dark-armored soldiers. Their faces were hidden behind jagged masks and their eyes glowed red like burning coal. These were not Zitharans. These were Draxians, the enemies the king had warned him about. The leader stepped forward, his armor darker than the others, and his voice carried a metallic echo. So, this is the human who touched the royal heir. Eli slowly raised his hands. I don't want trouble. The kid's hurt. He needs help. The Draxian commander tilted his head, studying Eli. Oh, we will help him, he said, his tone full of mockery. We will use him. His bloodline holds the key to power your people can't even imagine, And now, thanks to your foolish kindness, you are part of it. Two soldiers grabbed Eli roughly, forcing him to the ground. Lyran stirred beside him, his small hand reaching weakly toward Eli. Eli. The child's voice whispered inside his mind, faint and full of pain. Don't let them take me. I won't, Eli said through gritted teeth, struggling against the soldier's grip. But the Draxians were strong, their armor like iron walls. The commander knelt beside him, his red eyes narrowing. You bonded with the air. That means your life energy is tied to his. If we extract your essence, we can control the boy. And through him, the Zitharan king himself. Eli stared at him, horrified. You're monsters. The commander laughed, a deep sound like breaking glass. No, human. We're survivors. You just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They dragged Eli and Lyran into a hovering vehicle made of black metal that hummed like a living creature. It lifted into the sky, flying over a landscape that looked unreal. Floating rocks, rivers that glowed green, and mountains shaped like claws reaching toward the clouds. Inside the ship, Eli tried to keep Lyran awake. Hey, buddy, hang on. I'm here. Lyran opened his eyes weakly. They want the core, he whispered inside Eli's mind. The heart of Zithara. It powers our world. They will destroy it if they take it. Eli didn't fully understand, but one thing was clear. The Draxians weren't just enemies. They were planning to destroy entire worlds for power. When the ship finally stopped, Eli and Lyran were thrown into a cold metal cell. The walls hummed with energy that made Eli's skin tingle. He tried to touch the door, but it burned his hand like electricity. Stay back, he muttered, shaking his fingers. From the other side of the forced door, the commander's voice echoed. You'll be brought before our Lord soon. He wants to see the human who bonded with royal blood. Eli sat beside Lyran, who now looked even weaker. He could feel the boy's heartbeat in his own chest, slow and faint. Their bond pulsed softly like a dim light between them. I'm scared, Lyran whispered. Eli smiled faintly. Yeah, me too. But you know what? I've been through worse nights. Cold streets, hunger, people who never cared if I lived or died. You're not alone now, not while I'm here. For a moment, Lyran's eyes glowed brighter. You speak like my father, he said softly. That made Eli chuckle. Your father's a king. I'm just a guy who used to sleep under bridges. And yet, Lyran whispered, you gave what little you had. That makes you more noble than most kings. Before Eli could reply, the door hissed open. Two guards entered, their weapons raised. The Lord awaits, one said. They led Eli down a long corridor lined with strange symbols that glowed red. At the end of the hallway stood a massive door, black, ancient, and covered in moving carvings that seemed to shift when he looked at them. The door opened slowly, revealing a throne room that felt colder than death. At the center sat Lord Varen, ruler of the Draxians, tall, skeletal, with skin like cracked stone and eyes that burned like dying stars. So, Varen said, his voice deep and smooth, this is the human who changed destiny. Eli met his gaze, forcing courage into his shaking voice. You're wasting your time. I won't help you. Varen smiled, showing rows of sharp metallic teeth. Oh, you already have, human. The bond has made you a doorway, and soon I will walk through it. Before Eli could move, Varen lifted his hand. A surge of black energy burst from his palm, wrapping around Eli like smoke. It burned cold, not fire, but something worse, something alive. Lyran screamed inside his mind. Eli, don't let him break it. Eli clenched his fists, every muscle in his body trembling. You want my life? Then you'll have to fight for it. Varen's smile widened. Then fight I shall. The entire room shook as energy crackled between them. The bond between Eli and Lyran began to glow brighter, a beam of blue light piercing through the darkness. Varen staggered back, his armor cracking slightly under the force. Eli fell to his knees, gasping for air. Lyran's voice echoed stronger now. You can do this, Eli, I'm with you. For the first time, Eli felt power rushing through him, not alien, not human, but something new. The bond was evolving, and Lord Varen realized, too late, that the human he had captured was no longer just human. The chamber shook with a storm of light and sound. Sparks of blue and black energy clashed, filling the air with thunder. Eli fell to one knee, his breath burning, his vision blurring between two worlds. One human, one alien. Lord Varen towered before him, his skeletal face twisted in rage as the human refused to break. Impossible, Varen hissed. A human cannot resist the void. But Eli wasn't only human anymore. The bond between him and Lyran pulsed through every vein, light flowing like liquid fire under his skin. He could feel Lyran's heartbeat, his fear, his hope, all blending with his own. It was as if two souls had become one. Eli, listen! Lyran's voice whispered inside his mind, calm and steady despite the chaos. The bond gives you what I feel. Use it. Don't fight alone. Eli clenched his fists. Blue light burst from his palms, wrapping around him like a living flame. The Draxian guard stumbled backward, shielding their eyes. Varen roared, summoning dark tendrils that lashed toward him. They struck the energy field, exploding into white sparks. Eli screamed, not in pain but in awakening, as if his soul finally remembered what strength meant. He rose slowly, eyes glowing bright blue. His torn clothes fluttered in the unseen wind of energy swirling around him. Varen's red eyes widened. You carry the core's light. Eli took a step forward, his voice low but steady. No, I carry his heart. The chamber walls cracked, light spilling from every fracture. The floor vibrated as if the planet itself was afraid. Varen swung his arm, sending a blade of shadow slicing through the air. Eli raised his hand instinctively, and the shadow shattered against his light. The force of it hurled Varen backward. His throne split in half, collapsing into shards of black crystal. The guards hesitated, uncertain now. A mere human, a beggar from a distant planet, was overpowering their dark lord. Eli. Lyran's voice said again, fainter this time. The power is yours, but it comes from balance. If you let anger control it, you'll destroy yourself. Eli took a deep breath, closing his eyes. The anger, the pain, the loneliness of all those nights on Earth, he let it go. In its place came something purer, compassion. The same feeling that had made him give away his only blanket. When he opened his eyes again, his glow had softened. No longer wild, but controlled. Calm. Whole. I don't want to kill anyone, he said quietly. But I won't let you hurt him again. Varen rose, cracks glowing across his armor. Then you will fall with your kindness. He lifted both hands, summoning a storm of dark energy so powerful that the walls dissolved into black smoke. The entire fortress trembled. Outside, the sky split in two, light and darkness colliding above the planet. Eli stood his ground, raising his arms. The energy around him formed a shield, humming with the heartbeat of two worlds. The clash of power shook the heavens. For a moment, there was only blinding light, and then silence. When the smoke cleared, Varen was gone. Only ash drifted through the air where he had stood. The Draxian guards fell to their knees, their red eyes dimming. They had seen something greater than force, mercy that burned brighter than war. Eli staggered, exhausted. His glow faded, leaving only the faint shimmer of the bond on his chest. He dropped to the floor, gasping. Lyran appeared beside him, weak but alive. He placed a small glowing hand on Eli's heart. You did it, he whispered inside his mind. You saved us both, Eli smiled faintly. I just did what anyone would have done for a kid who was cold. Lyran shook his head. No, Eli. No one else could have done it. The bond chose right. Outside the ruined fortress, the purple sky began to clear. Far in the distance, ships appeared, Zithran ships answering the call of their heir. Beams of blue light descended, surrounding the planet like guardian stars. Eli looked up at the ships, feeling warmth spread through his tired body. Guess your people came for you after all. Lyran smiled. For us. The Zithran soldiers found them soon after. When they saw their heir safe and the human still standing beside him, they bowed. Even the commander who once viewed Eli with suspicion looked at him with quiet respect. You have done what no warrior of Zithra could, he said. The king will want to see you. Eli glanced at Lyran, who nodded. Home, the child whispered. Eli smiled faintly. Yeah, let's go home. As the ship lifted into the sky, leaving the dark world behind, Eli looked out the window. Stars stretched endlessly before him, each one glowing like a promise. For the first time in his life, he wasn't cold, hungry, or forgotten. He had a purpose. He had a friend, and somewhere deep inside, the bond between them glowed, not just as light, but as proof that even the smallest act of kindness could shake the stars themselves. The Zithran ship glided silently through the stars, leaving behind the dark ruins of the Draxian world. Inside, everything was calm. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and the hum of the engine sounded like a heartbeat echoing through metal veins. Eli sat near the window, watching the endless galaxy pass by. He had never imagined he'd see space, not in his wildest dreams. He had lived under bridges among trash and cold rain, never thinking about stars or destiny, but now he had fought for an alien world, and won. Beside him sat Lyran, wrapped in a silver robe, his energy stronger than before. The boy smiled faintly, his eyes glowing like two tiny suns. "You're quiet," he said inside Eli's mind. Eli smiled back. "Just thinking. Back home, I used to stare at the sky at night. I thought the stars were cold and lonely, but now I know they're alive. They watch us." Lyran tilted his head, curious. "You miss your world?" Eli sighed. "Yeah, Earth's not perfect. People forget the weak. They walk past you when you're hungry, but it's still home." The boy nodded slowly. "Then you shall return." Moments later, the door to the chamber opened and the Zithran king stepped in. He looked different now, calmer, humbled, as if the fight had changed him too. He placed a hand on Lyran's shoulder and then looked at Eli. "Human," the king said softly. "You have done what no warrior of Zithra could. You saved my son, united two worlds, and destroyed an enemy who sought to control creation itself." Eli stood awkwardly. "I just did what felt right, Your Majesty." "The kid needed help," the king smiled. "Sometimes the greatest heroes are those who act without thinking of reward." He stepped closer, placing a glowing emblem in Eli's hands, a small crystal that shimmered with every color of the stars. "This is a fragment of the core of Zithra," the king explained. "It holds the memory of your courage. Should your world ever fall into darkness, this light will answer your call." Eli stared at it, speechless. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," the king said. "You have already spoken through your deeds." Lyran looked up at his father. "I want to go with him, just for a while. He showed me kindness. I want to see where he came from." The king hesitated but nodded. "Very well. One cycle only. Then you return," Eli chuckled. "Guess I've got company for the trip home." Back on Earth, the ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, hidden by clouds and silence. It landed quietly in the same park where Eli had first found Lyran that freezing night. The world looked smaller now, quiet, almost fragile. The wind carried the smell of wet grass, the same smell Eli had known for years. He stepped out, feeling the ground beneath his boots. "Back home," he whispered. Lyran looked around, amazed. "So this is your world. It feels sad but beautiful." Eli nodded. "Yes, it's got problems, but it's worth fighting for." As they walked toward the bridge, Eli saw something strange. His old spot was gone. The city had changed. There were flowers planted where he used to sleep. A small wooden sign stood there with his old blanket sealed behind glass. Eli stopped, frozen in disbelief. The sign read, "In memory of the unknown man who gave his only blanket to a child and disappeared the next day. Kindness never dies, it travels beyond the stars." Eli felt tears in his eyes. The people who once ignored him had remembered. Somehow the story had spread. Maybe someone had seen him that night, or maybe fate itself had carried the tale. Lyran touched his hand. "They honor you." Eli smiled sadly. "They honor what kindness means." The boy looked up at the stars, now hidden behind clouds. "You think they'll ever believe the truth?" Eli chuckled softly. "Maybe not, but they don't need to. Some things are better as stories." They stood there for a while, listening to the city, the laughter, the traffic, the life. Then Lyran looked at him with glowing eyes. "It's time." Eli nodded. "Yeah, time to go." The boy stepped closer, placing his hand on Eli's chest. A warm light spread through him, calm, peaceful, final. "The bond will always live," Lyran whispered. "Even when we're far apart," Eli smiled faintly. "Goodbye, little one." A flash of blue light filled the park, soft as moonlight. When it faded, Eli stood alone, the sky above him clear and full of stars. He looked at the glass case one last time, touched the spot where his old blanket rested, and whispered, "Guess you finally found a home too." As he walked away, the wind carried his words up toward the stars, and far beyond. On the silver world of Zithra, a small boy looked up at the same sky and smiled. Weeks later, people across Earth began seeing strange lights in the night sky. Gentle, blue streaks that moved like fireflies across the heavens. Some called them meteors. Others called them a miracle. But one homeless man, now no longer forgotten, knew the truth. They were not stars. They were thank yous from another world.